cats and kitties, I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 13 of the anime series, Blade and Soul. And this episode was pretty much nothing to do with the overall story, the finale for which was really the last episode, the previous episode 12. This episode instead, presented us with its own sort of little mini self-contained story, and while it was played for laughs and humor and stuff like that, it was not without commentary and some great, footnotes that we've seen basically cast throughout the series. That being, basically, you have these three women, Luana Dawn, Karen L, and Hazuki, basically being led astray by these maps that they find, these fake maps, as we find out through the course of the episode, promising a great wealth of beauty. And each of these three women, you would think looking at them, the way they are characteristically drawn and everything like that, that they're, they would be considered the most beautiful women probably in all of this area and everything. But I like that there's this commentary, this idea that no matter how beautiful you think a person is or you think they might think themselves to be, everyone has self-doubt. Everyone has a feeling of wishing they could be more than what they are, and, lack of self-confidence and that kind of thing. And while this episode kind of plays their desires in a sort of greedy fashion, because they're supposed to be so penultimately beautiful and everything, they're going to be greedier than all hell. They want riches and fortunes and all of that. I think the underlying thing here is we see these women who, they do have a certain level of confidence, but there's a lot of that might be considered bravado, that they're just sort of, going through the motions, putting on a cover, a front, if you will. And so they're led very easily to this cause of tracking down this location where this professed, beauty is supposed to lie, and each of them takes their own roundabout route. Now we see the ones who take the most direct route are Karen with little Pia, and their ship basically gets attacked on the way to this island by what appears at first to be sharks or piranha, like giant piranha, but it ends up being these fish-headed dudes, almost like tribesmen, but they have human bodies with the head of a fish for some reason, like a piranha fish, complete with the jaws, the pointy teeth, and everything. And at first, they're going to basically attack Karen as well as Pia, but there's this little moment where Karen's top comes loose. Because their clothes are wet, they decide to dry them off, and they make what look like, sort of tribeswoman attire with shells over their, busts and leaves over their waistline and everything like that. And so they look almost like natives, with the exception of not being fish people. And so these fish people see this slip up, and suddenly they're bowing down to this goddess that is Karen. And as we see with Luana, she ends up finding this map, and they take an underground route. By they, I mean, of course, Luana and the Pleasure Gang, her people in tow. And, of course, they find this whole other group of people, these cat dudes, essentially. Again, very tribalistic, a culture that looks like something you might find in an island that was cut off from the rest of the world. Only, again, these dudes are furry and they have cat heads, and so it's very interesting. It's kind of a surf and turf island, if you will, and a very similar situation unfolds, where essentially Luana and her Pleasure Gang folks, they strip out of their clothes, they put on these, wraps around their naughty bits and everything after washing up and getting cleaned from all the dirt in the underground and whatever. And, there's a slip-up after, basically, we see these cat people are going to eat them, where Luana's top, flummoxes, and they get a good view of her, and boom, all of a sudden they get down on their knees and they're starting to worship her as a goddess. So basically, while we're seeing these women being so worshipped, we find that, Karen is going to be treated to this grand deluxe meal of this gigantic, enormous fish, on a platter. It's still whipping itself around, and basically Karen has to go on the attack. She uses her little fan blade, cuts the sucker all the way down the middle, releasing, in effect, Hazuki. She apparently was making her way on her own on a little, rowboat or what have you. This fish swallowed her a la Pinocchio, and here Karen has saved her very comedically. And it's at this point, when everything soon comes to a head, with both of these tribes essentially bringing Luana, Karen, and Hazuki, as well as the Pleasure Gang from both respective sides of the island, to this hot spring at, I guess, its center, which is supposed to be the wellspring of eternal beauty, this thing that they've been looking for. And so they get in the water, essentially, and this is where things really go haywire. The water turns blue, and all of a sudden you notice all of these women are hallucinating. Hazuki sees the thing she most passionately desires, money, in the eyes of the fish dudes. You see basically Karen remembering what it was like, the horrors of being poor, of being impoverished as a youth and everything like that. And then Luana is basically seeing monsters. You know, these fish creatures are becoming monsters and chasing her and scaring her because she actually turned down eating fish in her youth. You know, sort of almost reverse worship on her part. And it's really cool because this is where Aruka, who I didn't think was going to be in the episode at all at this point, comes in and saves the day, and we find out through her fast intervention basically this great reveal that the water having turned blue and, you know, created all of these hallucinations was down to those heaven spirit flowers once again, you know, an intoxicant, something that creates more harm, you know, it just creates more danger. And so that's like a dual commentary there. You have these women who are lusting after this great wealth of beauty, not really feeling necessarily as beautiful as they may appear to others. And so, you know, whether it's that or the filthy lucre remains debatable at best, I guess. But you also have this great commentary once again coming down, swooping in with Aruka's blade, that these heaven spirit flowers are really just, especially once perverted, the biggest danger there is to all of these people. And so I loved it. I mean, it was a really cool, self-contained little episode. Nice sort of cap on the bottle of what the entire series has been. And I've loved this entire series. Essentially, the pacing, the reveals of the characters, the twists and turns of the story. And I love this little end cap that they threw in for good measure. So otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well. I'll catch you all later. Peace.